All right, welcome into the Boston Sports Beat podcast. John Zannis alongside Greg Bedard. To start things off, we're going to talk Patriots. Day after the announcement that Cam Newton has been released by the Patriots, first chance to hear from Bill Belichick on the quarterback decision. This is the number one story for all of training camp. Finally have a resolution, a shocking, for some people, decision to cut the veteran Cam Newton, go with the rookie to start. And this to me was a freaking layup for Bill. It's so easy to say Mac's done some things really well. Some things he needs to improve on. We like a lot that we see, but we've all got to focus on Miami and flowery things about Cam Newton on a send-off, which he's done a million times before when he lets a respected veteran go or a player who they like. He did none of those things. What do you think was behind that? What motivated him? I have my theories, but I want to hear yours because I was following you on Twitter right afterwards. You're like, that was freaking weird. Well, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question, John. I mean, I asked people in the building, and they're like, "Who the hell knows? It's Bill." Like, they don't even know. They're like, because I didn't understand what the heck that was, and. And that's the thing, you talk about, you said, I have my theories, you have your theories. That's what Bill gives oxygen to, all these theories where he didn't need to do that. Now we need to talk about probably a bunch of stuff that amounts to nonsense. But, look, you can bring up a couple different theories from this. You could say, because Bill looked in a pretty pissy mood, if you ask me, this morning, and that could indicate that he didn't want to make this decision, that maybe somebody like the Crafts forced him into it, or that because Cam Newton, wouldn't get vaccinated, it forced Bill's hand. And, he said it didn't have anything to do with vaccination. I doubt that's entirely the case. It could also be that when Bill told Cam that they were going with Mac Jones, that Cam basically told Bill to go screw himself. And Bill was ticked off about it. And it could mean that Cam Newton could be coming back at some point. I mean, who the hell knows? I mean, that's what you get from that press conference where you can't even answer basic questions like, hey, was this a difficult decision? Yeah, it really was. These guys did everything we asked them to do. Yeah. They worked their butts off, all of them, and at the end of the day, we thought that it was in the best interest of the team to go forward with Mac, that he gave us our best opportunity to win. We didn't think that it made sense for Cam to be back here in a reduced role. So, we're going to part ways with him, but Cam was the ultimate professional here. Can't say enough about Cam. And it turns out he doesn't say a word about Cam Newton for a year and a half. He's been basically kissing Cam's backside, and then he lets him go and he doesn't say anything about it. I mean, I don't know. I just thought it was ridiculous. It was unnecessary.
Right.
And for such a momentous occasion in this franchise's history, for the head coach to say basically nothing is just, I'm sorry. It's not good enough.
It isn't. And again, you never know what, as you said, you're talking to people in the building. They don't know what the reasoning behind it is, but it all of a sudden creates it creates a story out of nothing, which is, did Cam do something? Is he mad at Cam? What's going on here? I think it's as simple as, I don't think Bill likes to admit that he came to a decision that everybody else had also come to, which is, you've got every single writer and every analyst and every person out there, Mac's better, Bill, hopefully Bill does the right thing. And then he does, but he's like, I didn't do it because you said so. I did it because I felt like it. And I'm just not going to sit up here and give you the satisfaction and say, like, yeah, we went with that thing that you guys were saying I should have gone with all along. And maybe he just wanted to push back a little, and it came off in this really inelegant way. I don't really get it.
I think that's true, John. I also, to take it a bit further, I think that, if Bill would have said certain things today about Mac and about how he got beat out for the job, that might lead to inevitable questions about, like, well, why was he here in the first place? How did you screw up the transition last year? Did, your decisions at quarterback, when you could have done plenty of other things last year, did it cost this team a playoff spot?
Sure.
Now, for a guy who, for all that we heard about, he's his second year, he's doing better, he'll be better this year. He lost to a first-round rookie quarterback, one who was the fifth quarterback taken in the first round. Does that mean that Cam Newton wasn't any good this entire time here? I think it's all of those things together where he doesn't want to, give the reporters any air, but also not give any oxygen to, maybe this was one big mistake that he made.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Everything since the beginning of last year, as you said, when he's kind of Cam's the guy and stubbornly stuck with him, even though everybody all season long was clearly saying this is bad, this is going poorly, and this was a mistake. And you're right, that's one. The other, I guess, always the possibility of not overinflating the ego of Mac Jones, because now that he is the starter, you don't want to sit here and gush and glow over the rookie as well. So I think maybe those two things kind of comes out this way. And again, it just didn't make sense. The other thing that Bill Belichick did today was, and this is a story, whether he wants it to be or not. And you've seen Urban Meyer get himself into hot water over giving an honest answer about what's going on with the vaccine, the COVID-19 situation here, which is it's harder for players who are not vaccinated to kind of navigate this new NFL world here. It is what it is. They have tighter restrictions. They get to close contacts, immediately take them out of play for 5 days or whatever, like what happened with Newton earlier. And he's one of 7% of players who are unvaccinated. So he's in a clear minority here. So Belichick was asked very simply, hey, did this factor into the decision? And he gave a really bizarre answer.
Did Cam's vaccination status have anything to do with him being released?
No. I mean, look, you guys keep talking about that, and, I would just point out that I don't know what the number is. I mean, you guys can look it up. You have the access to a lot of information, but the number of players and coaches and staff members that have, been infected by COVID in this training camp who have been vaccinated is a pretty high number. So I wouldn't lose sight of that.
All right. So, Greg, this was at best evasive, at worst wildly irresponsible for Belichick to say what he said here, because it makes it sound like he's questioning vaccine efficacy, which, again, I don't think it was his intention to do. I just don't think he felt like answering this question and said what he said right there. But then, boom, Twitter lights up, blue check marks go bananas. It's a story everywhere, not just sports story. It's a national story that an intelligent person like Bill Belichick would say something that is so potentially damaging and harmful and sounds ignorant, which, again, I don't think what he's trying to say is vaccines don't work and there's other people have problems too. It's proven. There's facts. The NFL released their findings a few days ago. You're 7 times more likely. The testing is that they tested a 7 times higher rate, vaccinated versus unvaccinated versus vaccinated. So you've got empirical evidence. Why would he go out there and say something like, yeah, lots of people get it? That's just dumb.
Yeah, I didn't understand it. I mean, he basically flat out lied, about the effectiveness of the vaccine and how it relates to NFL locker rooms. And look, he could say whatever he wants. And, I mean, we know that he's vaccinated and, because all the coaches have to be. But the bottom line is, like, he's just being untruthful about, look, you could say whatever you want about the vaccine and whether it tests positive or what have you. But the bottom line is unvaccinated players put a strain on an NFL football team. They have to go by rules that are much more restrictive, that really hurt the operating system for the entire team, as we saw with Cam Newton just not testing. He didn't even test positive. He didn't test in the right facilities, and he missed 3 days of really important practices. And that transfers to the regular season. And so, I just, again, it was part of a press conference where overall I was just like, dude, what are we doing here? What is the point of this? And I just thought it was unnecessary and really pointless.
Yeah, and again, as you said, it is an issue. Again, no matter how you look at it, it's no different than it's any player who puts themselves at any risk of missing time, whether it's being an injury-prone guy in general or riding your motorcycle without a helmet. All of these things you'll take into consideration, which is, I may be without this guy, and then I have to factor that into a decision. So it is part of the reality of the NFL right now, whether or not it had anything to do with Cam, whether it was the 3 days of practice he missed where Mac was really able to distance himself there. It's hard to know. Obviously, it's hard to know anything from the Bill Belichick press conference today. So put a bow on it. it is what it is. The story doesn't change. Mac Jones is your starting quarterback. Cam Newton is looking for a job right now. 15 players total I have right now, speaking of looking for jobs or getting jobs, added back to the Patriots practice squad. They did not lose anybody to waivers. So they were able to get guys like Wilkerson back and a couple of guys they signed that may or may not get elevated to the 53. You have Hoyer still on the practice squad, but the thought he's going to get bumped up. You have Nick Folk is there in case you need him. So that's obviously a good thing as well. In case the rookie Quinn Nordin, shits the bed here. And then you've also got a couple of guys they took off waivers, a quarterback slash receiver, wide receiver out of Navy, which you found to be a bit surprising. And then a fullback that may or may not push Jakob Johnson here for a job. Mason.
Actually, Malcolm Perry, I did not. He's the former Navy quarterback.
Navy Perry, yep.
Was with the Dolphins as a wide receiver, sort of gadget guy.
He was
not a surprise. Pardon?
He was a surprise, or he was not?
That they signed him? No, he was not. He was actually on my list the night of cutdowns. I went through and he was one of the names that jumped out, but just because the Patriots did show a lot of interest before the draft. I think they would have signed him undrafted. He went in the 7th round to Miami, scooped up by a similar scheme and, people who know how the Patriots operate. We'll see how he fits and whether he ultimately does. A lot of times these guys, whether it's practice squad or, the 51st, 2nd, and 3rd guys on the roster are often here for a very short time where they take a look at them. Hey, does this fit? No. All right. Well, we're going to release him. So, I thought Perry made a lot of sense. He could help in certain ways if they need it. I think that Tavai, the Lions linebacker, picked by the Matt Patricia administration. So, that they see things similar. The fullback, Ben Mason, has always been a good, solid player. They don't really have another fullback. I think that would make sense that he's on the practice squad just in case something happens to Jakob Johnson. Garrett Gilbert was signed, the quarterback from the Cowboys. He could be a revolving door on the practice squad as sort of the 3rd quarterback. Brian Hoyer, I fully expect at some point to be elevated to the roster. Him and Nick, I think Folk could be elevated to the active roster as well and be the opening day kicker. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Right. Just with these guys that don't have to go through waivers, if they come to some sort of agreement with the Patriots, like, look, I don't want to go anyplace else. If I'm still in the mix with you, the Patriots could say, look, we're going to sign you to the practice squad. We can elevate you twice. That'll give us almost a 55, 56-man roster in that sort of way. And so, nothing major. I mean, everybody likes to make a big deal out of the practice squad and the, 52nd, 53rd guy on the roster. But, in my opinion, nothing earth-shattering at all at what the Patriots have done today.
No, and then, the one move which is expected, which was a roster shuffle, was the N'Keal Harry IR thing is likely happening here. He'll miss 3 games, but again, that was largely expected when, because they got to make some moves to elevate some of these guys, onto the roster like a Hoyer or whomever. So that's something that's definitely going to happen. But yeah, again, no big surprises. Okay, switching gears to baseball. Sean McAdam of the Boston Sports Journal covering the Red Sox. And Sean, it's a mess down at Fenway Park right now with a lot of things going on all at once. Team's not playing well, but the biggest issue right now surrounding the team is this COVID-19 situation. We have Xander Bogaerts on Tuesday testing positive, being pulled from the middle of the game. He's now the 10th member of the team that's on the list, 9 whom tested positive. This is coaches, players, or staff. 1 who was a close contact. And again, this has been a problem with the team all year long, with not being able to reach the vaccination threshold. And now you've got a situation where you're just losing players left and right at a time where you absolutely can't afford to. So, Sean, just your reaction to what's going on down there with the team.
Yeah, I think you're right, John. I think they have flirted with disaster with this issue for most of the year. And for the first 4.5 months, have largely avoided
Right.
any wide scale breakouts, which have hit other teams like the Phillies, like the Yankees, and so many others. Incredibly, they've been pretty fortunate given the fact that, as you noted, they haven't hit the 85% threshold and yet have been able to keep guys on the field. Yeah, they've had a couple of close contact scares where they lost players for 24 hours. They've had some false positives come up, players come back. But this is now a full-scale breakout where you're missing half your infield now between Kike Hernandez, Christian Arroyo, and Xander Bogaerts in the middle of the infield, and half your bullpen with another 4 relievers unavailable to you at a time when you're playing the best team in the American League, the team you are ostensibly trying to catch, the Tampa Bay Rays, 7 times in the span of 10 days. So a disastrous turn of events, and the timing couldn't have been worse as they fight for their playoff lives.
And what's been going on, as you said, it's been all year long, and you wonder again behind the scenes how big of an issue this is with players and coaches. Obviously, like, they don't want to discuss it openly, but you have a faction of players, a group of people who got vaccinated, and then a group who just refuses to. And when something like this pops up, it's hard to not wonder what's one side thinking. And you asked manager Alex Cora this very question prior to Tuesday's game. Here's what Cora had to say.
You have framed this whole vaccination issue as a private matter and that everyone has a choice to make. But is there any frustration on your part, or do you sense any on the part of any of your players that maybe the unvaccinated players in the clubhouse may have helped bring on this outbreak and that it could have been avoided?
Sean, I'm not going to go into details with this, but I'm not as frustrated with the situation because of knowing everything else about it. So I've been saying all along, it's their choice, and you have to respect that. It just happened to us, but I'm not as frustrated as if it was a different way. Let's put it that way.
So there you have it. Cora doesn't give you much there, Sean, but he does acknowledge that it's a thing that, it's fair to ask the question, which it certainly is in this particular case. Maybe he doesn't believe that this is what led to this particular outbreak. But again, it's a continued problem. And let's say they dodged a bullet, not dodged a bullet, but say in this instance, it wasn't the reason. 5 days from now, 10 days from now, you're able to trace an outbreak back to someone or something that you think was the issue, and you lose another slew of players for another stretch of games, then it becomes a problem. And again, you said they've been walking this line all season long and have largely avoided catastrophe. But again, you continue to flirt with it here.
Yeah, it's dangerous, and it's kind of like you're walking around with a hand grenade and suddenly it's gone off again at the worst possible time with 5 weeks to go in the season. You're already trying to make up ground in the division. You're trying to stay or get ahead of the Yankees so that if you do settle for the wild card, you have home field advantage. And you're looking over your shoulder at teams like the Oakland A's and Seattle Mariners, who are gaining ground as you struggle. As we record this, the Red Sox have lost 3 games in a row. So those are all things that are conspiring to happen at the worst possible time for the Red Sox, and a demanding part of the schedule, and at a time where they're trying to move forward and instead are moving backward.
Let's move on to that schedule. The Red Sox entering Wednesday's play 75-59. They're hanging on to that second AL wildcard spot, barely trailing the Yankees, but Oakland, as you mentioned, is creeping up now, a game behind. Just the play on the field, what's been going on right now. This is a team that, for a large part of this year was inspiring, overcoming odds, doing all these things, and really a great feel-good story. But it's starting to resemble the 2020 team more than the early parts of the 2021 team. And it's especially one thing you wrote about at Boston Sports Journal. And again, for those out there who don't subscribe, you should go out there. $39 a year. It's 11 cents a day for premium coverage of the Red Sox, obviously the Patriots, Celtics, and Bruins as well. But you wrote about defense is a huge issue here with this team, in addition to some of the other problems that they've kind of been dealing with a lot of the year.
Yeah, there have been some fundamental breakdowns, John, of late. There have also just been some sloppy defensive play, and you only have to go to the third inning on Tuesday night in their third loss in a row, a loss to the Rays, where they really were not in the game very long, principally because in that third inning, the Rays score 6 runs. And inside that window of the third inning, the following 3 things happened. Alex Verdugo made a flat-footed, lazy, off-target throw to second base that allowed not just one base runner to advance, but 2 to put themselves in scoring position. Then you had Bobby Dahlbeck unable to corral a poor cutoff throw from Hunter Renfroe, resulting in an extra run scoring. And finally, a catchable fly ball in right field that somehow fell in between Renfroe and Jairo Munoz, converging on the ball, neither calling for it. It drops in for a 2-run double. Those 3 things happened in 1 inning and led to a 6-run inning for Tampa. And that was basically all she wrote for that one. But sadly, you can go back to all of these defensive letdowns over the last couple of weeks, some which they've been able to overcome, others they haven't. They were in this stretch where they were playing bad teams like Texas and Minnesota and getting away with mistakes. When you play an opportunistic, good team like Tampa Bay, that's not going to happen. In fact, not only don't you overcome it, it becomes the thing that beats you. That was the case Tuesday night at Tropicana Field.
Yeah, so Sean, again, as you mentioned, it's a really difficult stretch here for the Red Sox. So the 2 things together really don't add up. You obviously have Chris Sale in, hopefully can stop the bleeding, but ultimately there's a lot of things that are going to be difficult to overcome. It starts with the COVID. The rest of the stuff, as you said, is within their control, which is avoid these mental lapses and just focus on playing baseball. It does look like a team that strangely has lost a bit of its focus along the way. And yeah, we've discussed different things that have gone on, from disappointment from the trade deadline to whatever's going on behind the scenes, if there's frustration with all of the positive COVID tests here. And you start to wonder whether the team feels like it's not happening this year, which is a shame considering how close they are this late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly overachieved for the first, say, 3.5 months, John, and exceeded just about everyone's expectations. But some of that is being forfeited by their play over the last month. And I think the next couple of weeks are going to go a long way in determining a little bit about how we remember this team. Were they a team that folded when things got tough, when they play sloppy, when they allow mental mistakes, when they don't hustle at times? Is that what is going to be the snapshot of the 2021 season? Or are they going to show some character here? You know, as you referenced, early in the year, when bad things happened, they rebounded. I remember them losing that 1-0 game in Tropicana Field in late June on a wild pitch, unearned run, 1-0, walk-off loss. Everyone thought, well, let's see how they respond to that. Well, how did they respond? They came home and swept the Yankees at Fenway. And I think that's what endeared this team to a lot of people, thinking, okay, they've shown me something. Now a bigger test arrives. And I think it's also going to be an interesting test for Alex Cora, because he certainly gets credit for how well things went for the first 3.5 months. Now the onus is on him to make sure that they continue to compete, that they continue to show that their heads are in the game, and that they're focused despite the adversity they're facing.
Right. You get the credit, you get the blame. So certainly, something to watch here and just see. Again, a 2011 style ending to this season would certainly be what they're remembered for, much more so than the 30-something come from behind wins that they had in the first half of the season. So that's for sure.